Friends, if you visit a mega store, a mega departmental store, they have different type of products, right? So for example, they have dresses, and dresses are displayed or rendered in a different way. Then they display fruits and vegetables. Are you getting what I'm saying? So these are all the products of the same departmental store. All of them are for sale, but they are displayed in vastly different ways to improve the user experience, right? So fruits and vegetables are displayed differently. Television sets or electronics are again displayed in a different way. They have different set of requirements. They might need electricity and they might need a flat surface where they can be hanged, right? Similarly, for mobile covers, there is a different kind of a display. For food grains, groceries, again, there is a different way to display them, right? All of these are products of the supermarket, but they are displayed. They are put in front of the user in a very different way. Why? To give user the best experience. Every product requires a different kind of a display to give the best user experience. Friends, similarly, think of our website as a mega departmental store and all of its content as all of its product. So for example, a video needs to be displayed in a different way. An audio needs to be displayed to a user in a different way. A button needs a different kind of a display. An image needs to be displayed in a different way. A text needs to be displayed in a different way. Are you getting what I'm saying? So all of these content, what HTML allows us to do, it allows us to tag them, which tells browser. So these tags, video tag, audio tag, all of the tags that we'll be learning, these HTML tags, we are basically tagging our content that tells browser, that communicates to the browser how to show them to the user, right? And in today's lecture, we will be focusing on the text content. Today, we'll learn how to work with all the types of text in HTML. So we'll be learning all of these tags and what are the use cases of that and how and where to use these. Now you can see it's a reasonably long list, right? So what is the expectation? Let's do some expectation setting before we start. First is you don't need to remember all of these tags, right? You just need to know that they exist, where to find them when you need them, and a rough idea of how to use them. So as an interviewer, if I ask one of my candidates that, tell me the purpose of small HTML tag, I don't expect them to give me a perfect answer, but I don't expect a dumb look on their face either. They must know that these tags exist and what is the purpose of these tags. Okay, so this is only what I am expecting from all of you. You don't need to remember all of these. Definitely you don't need to remember. You should know by the end of this lecture where to find them, how to use them, and you should have a rough idea of all of them. You'll be having my notes. I'll be walking you through the MDN documentation, which should be every developer's source of truth, right? You don't need to browse anywhere else. Just these notes that will be provided to you and the MDN documentation. These two. What is MDN documentation? We will see. It's by Mozilla Developer Network. So they are the specifications itself in a human readable form. So the most reliable source of information in my opinion. Okay. And we'll be building everything from scratch. I don't want to assume anything. Okay. So yeah, let's start. Sabse pehle, let's create a folder and you can name it anything, my friends. So let's name it maybe HTML text. Why not? Then we'll open the Visual Studio Code. I'll let it open. And now I will open the folder that we just created. So I clicked open, I went to the desktop, I am selecting the HTML text folder and I'll hit open, right? So you can see HTML text here. Now here we will create an HTML file, okay? Like when we create a doc file, a Microsoft document file, we use the extension .doc, right? When you save an image file, you save them with an extension .png, .jpeg. Why? So that browser knows which programs should be used to open them, right? So right now we are making an HTML file and the extension for HTML file should be .html. Okay, so let's create a file. We can name it anything. My first HTML file .html, anything. Usually the first page that loads, okay, we'll see it in depth. Okay, let's not worry about that for now. So I'll just name it text elements .html. Okay, so I created a file called text elements.html. Now we'll start creating some HTML tags, but before that, let's just type some simple text like hello world. And let's see if we are able to see it in the browser. How does this HTML look in the browser? Okay, maybe I'll copy hello world a couple of times. I'll save it. And now I need to see how browser displays this HTML that we have just written. Okay, so let's see a couple of ways of doing that. I have this Visual Studio Code open in the left side. In the right hand side, I have my Chrome browser, friends. And here is the folder that we created. So if I open the folder, friends, you will see that the text elements.html that we created, if you see the icon for that, you will see that it's Chrome browser. Because Chrome is my default browser, right? So it understands that these kind of files are to be opened by a browser. Okay. Now, in case you don't see this .html tag in the notes of this chapter, I have explained how to do this for all kind of machines, whether you are in Windows, Mac. This course is totally platform independent, right? So for web development, you should be able to see the file extension. By default, it's hidden for many operating systems, right? So maybe you're able to see the icon for your browser, but you're not able to see the extension. For web development, it's always good that you should be able to see extension. So friends, if I just click and drag it to the browser, you see that we are able to preview our HTML code in the browser. This is how browser decides to display. This is how our Megastore decides to display our content. So this is one of the ways. What is the way? We simply click and drag the file to any browser. So this is one way. Friends, the second way is that you open the file and just double click it. Just double click it and it will open it in one of the browsers. Second way of previewing an HTML file. And friends, the third way is that right now Chrome is selected. In Windows operating system, you might have to see Alt, enable to see this menu. So I have Chrome as my active window. I hit File. I hit Open File. Then inside of Desktop, I select the folder or the project and click the HTML file, select the HTML file and hit Open. This also opens our HTML file. So these are so many ways of opening or previewing your HTML file in the browser. There is one more very nice way. We will look into it after a little bit of time. So friends, in the left hand side, I have my Visual Studio Code, and in the right hand side I have my browser. Okay, so whatever changes I make to the HTML, we should be able to preview it in the browser when we refresh them. Okay, so let's clear the content. I am pressing Ctrl A and then the backspace to clear the window. Now throughout the course, we'll be learning lots of tricks to do lots of things with Visual Studio Code and a thing called Emmet. Don't worry about that for now. So I need a lot of text here, right? So the way we do it during web development is I'll just type lorem and press enter and then save. So you see that I have a lot of dummy text. Do you see this? Now friends, if I type lorem and then 50, then I'll have 50 different words. So if I save it and then refresh the page, you see I have so many different words. So I have some dummy content to play around with. Okay. Now the first tag for text that we are already introduced to is paragraphs. So in text, for text, something that can immediately, something that can immediately make our text much more readable is a paragraph tag. One thing we can do is, friends, instead of scrolling things horizontally, we can wrap this, right? That would be a good idea, right? So how you do that? You click on view. So you have this code. You click on view. You click on command palette. You will also be able to see a shortcut here. And as an engineers, we should try to use as much shortcuts as possible. You don't need to memorize them. As we practice them, they become our second nature. So when you click command palette, and then you can start typing wrap. So you see here, toggle word wrap. So if I click this or hit enter, you will see that now I don't have that horizontal scroll bar. The words are wrapped for me. Again, how did I do that? I clicked on view, I clicked on command palette, and then I searched for wrap and I selected toggle word wrap. Okay. The much easier way is using the shortcut. So you can use Control Shift or Command Shift P for palette and then type wrap and then hit enter. Okay. So make it a habit of using Command or Control Shift P to open the palette, the command palette. Cool. Now, although we are making paragraphs here, right? In the HTML content, we are making paragraphs, but browser does not understand, right? It just ignores all the extra white space. So how do you make these paragraphs? So one way that we learned in one of the last lectures is you wrap it with a P tag, right? So as soon as you wrap it with a P tag, an opening P tag and a closing P tag, and save them and then refresh the browser, you will see that it is displayed. This product is displayed as a paragraph. Why? Because we have tagged it with a P tag. Browser knows how to render it. Friends, another much better way of doing the exact same thing is just cut this content. So select the content that you want to cut. Use Ctrl X or Command X to cut it. Just press P and hit enter. So you have an opening paragraph tag, you have a closing paragraph tag, and then cursor is automatically in between of them, in middle of them. And if you hit V or paste it, Command V, Control V, and then save it, do you think it's much easier than typing angle bracket, then P, and then the closing bracket, and then slash and all of this? So this is one of the ways. We cut the content, we press P, we hit tab or we hit enter, and we have a paragraph tag, both opening and closing. I'm just showing you all the possibilities. Feel free to use the way that's most comfortable to you. So maybe at the beginning, you might like to just type out everything. Do that. Just go ahead. But it's my responsibility as your instructor. As a promise of this course, I want to show you all the possibilities. Okay. Now the third way is, friends, you have an opening P tag here. You have the paragraph here. Now you don't need to type everything out here to close it. Just press the opening angle bracket and you see /P option here, right? It's already selected. Just hit enter and the opening and the closing tag will automatically be created for you. Third way. And finally the fourth way, which is used the most in the industry. Watch it carefully, friends. This is what I will expect my students to do. I don't want them to type everything individually. Just select the content that you want to wrap with a certain tag. So I want to wrap this entire paragraph with a P tag, right? Now press Command Shift P or Control Shift P to open the palette, and then search for wrap with abbreviation. Hit enter. Now this command palette is waiting for us to type the element that we want this paragraph to wrap with. Just hit P and enter and you are good to go. Lovely, isn't it? So I'll just do it again for you, friends. I just selected the paragraph that the content that I want to surround or wrap with P tag. I hit Command Shift P. I search for wrap with abbreviation, hit the P tag, type the P tag, hit enter, and I have my content surrounded with the P tag. Wonderful, isn't it? So what P tag does by default is it pushes, rest of the content to a separate line and gives a little bit of margin by default. Okay. So this is something that browser does to make it look like a P tag, right? Most of the styling aspects would be covered in CSS. Don't worry about them now. This is some default styling that browser does for you when you use a P tag. Cool? Next, very important set of HTML tags that you should learn, which is asked often in interviews, which is very important for accessibility, is headings level 1 to 6, H1 to H6 tags. So I've created some examples for you. This example will help you understand about the importance of headings, right? So if you just look at this blog, so we have a clearly defined title, the most important, the most, relevant heading right here. Then we have, again, if I give them a little bit of border, and a little bit of paddings, margins, the hierarchy will be much more visible. So we have a section. We have different sections. So this is the most important heading or the title. Then we have a couple of sections, like we have a section called Introduction. We have a section called What is Climate Change? We have another section for Causes of Climate Change, right? So we have total 3 sections within this web page. Just try to make sense of it, friends. It's very important. So you have 3 different sections here. One is the title, and inside of that, one is introduction, another what is climate change, and what are the causes of climate change, right? So within causes of climate change, you have more 2 sections. One is human activities that caused climate changes. Another is natural causes that caused climate changes. I've created this example just to make sure that you understand the importance of different levels of headings, right? And within human activities, again, you have different reasons or different sections for different things that humans do to, for the climate change, and some of the natural causes that happens, like volcanic eruptions, oceanic currents, that results in climate change. So friends, this is the most important level, or this is the most important title in this entire web page. So it's called heading 1. Can you guess which is the second one? These three, right? So these are heading level 2 of the heading. This is the level 3 of the heading, natural causes and human activities. And these are level 4 of heading. Do you get it? Very important, right? This clearly defines, headings are used to clearly define the structure and hierarchy of your web page. So you see a difference in the size. It's the largest, it's a bit smaller than that, it's even smaller, and it's the smallest. So this is the default style which HTML decided to give. With CSS we can totally change this. So the look is not our objective when we are writing HTML. Understand this very clearly. We are defining the structure of the page. We are defining the hierarchy. We are defining the importance and the level of headings here. Got it? So the way we do it in HTML is using the heading tag. So I'll just wrap this heading, which I want to make it the most important heading. I'll just wrap it with an abbreviation of H1. And when I save it, friends, and when I refresh the page, you will see that it is heading level 1. Similarly, we have heading level 2, H2. Similarly, we have H3. Do you see how easy it is if you use the proper shortcuts? It's much easier than doing all of these things, right? Opening angle bracket, closing angle bracket, typing H4, and then slash, and then H4. Like, much easier than this, right? Now again, same thing we'll do for heading 5. Wrap with abbreviation, and we want to wrap it with H5. And we'll do the same thing with heading level 6. We'll wrap it with H6 tag. Now if I save it and I refresh the page, I can see all the different levels of heading. Now one thing, friends, one problem that we are already experiencing is that I need to save my HTML. I need to refresh the page. Only then I am able to see the changes. What do you think if magically something happens that whenever we save our HTML, जब भी हम HTML save करें, whenever we save it, the page automatically refreshes? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? So let's see how to do that. Now this is the another way of opening the HTML tag, HTML page in a browser, which I was talking about. So I'll just open any new tab maybe. Or maybe I'll close this one here. Now, anywhere inside of my HTML page, I'll right click and then I'll hit open with live server. Okay, and you will see that our page immediately opened, and also VS Code is showing us a warning that live reload. So it was supposed to do something like a live reload, but that is not possible because we don't have a heading or a body tag. Now what is that? Let's get into it. So this is one of my ways of teaching, friends, which you will slowly realize that I just don't like to teach concept after concepts. We want to hit a problem and know why we need that, and then learn how to solve that. I think that is one of the best ways to learn. So friends, tell me one thing. Do you see something in the title of the page here? 127.001.550 text elements. It's showing the entire path, right? The local path here. What if I want to give it a better title? Something like HTML आसान है. How do I do that? How do I do that? Because whatever we type here, by default, browser would think that, it's supposed to be displayed inside of the body of the HTML page, right? So how do we give it some extra information, some meta information? We don't want that to be displayed here in the body of the HTML, in the web page itself, but how do we give it a little bit of extra information? So for that, we have a couple of tags, friends. So this is the usual hierarchy. So we have an HTML tag. Okay. Inside of HTML, we define two tags. One is head. Another is body. Okay. So this is, a very, very minimal boilerplate. It is telling the browser and the live server that this is the HTML content. Everything inside of this is HTML. These are some meta information, some information about the information, some information about the page, not the content of the page, not the body of the page. Whatever is inside of the head, it is some extra bit of information. And whatever is inside of the body, that is something that needs to be rendered here. So what we can do is I'll just get rid of most of the paragraphs here. I'll copy these paragraphs inside of the body tag. And how do I give a title? Inside of the head, we have a special tag called title. And inside of title, when I write HTML Aasan Hai with Vivek Agarwal, and you save it, and you refresh the page, now you see the title here. In the tab, it's HTML Aasan Hai. This content inside of head is not directly displayed inside of or in the body of the web page. It is some extra bit of information used for extra purposes. And here, whatever is inside of the body is actually displayed or rendered in the web page's body. So we just learned another concept that for an HTML page, everything should be wrapped inside of HTML tag. Inside that, we have two major sections, so to say. One is the head tag, another is the body tag. All the information that needs to be rendered in the body comes inside of body, and all the extra information, the meta information, that goes inside of the head. Cool? Now you see that the format has kind of broken a bit. And I will really not like to, see this broken piece of page, right? So I need to format it again. But formatting it manually is not that of a pleasant experience. Shouldn't there be a better way to format it? For that, we have a wonderful Visual Studio extension. So if you see in the Visual Studio, there is an extension in the activities bar. So if you click the extensions button and search for prettier, and this is very, very industry standard, friends. It's used in every project that I have worked on, right? So prettier extension is very, very popular. So just select the first one that you find, prettier code formatter. Okay. And you have to install it using the install button. Okay. And once this is installed, it's already installed for me because I use it all the time. You can install it, and then now what I can do is, friends, I can open the palette using Ctrl-Shift-P, and I can do format document. And as soon as I hit format document, you will see all of my document is very popular, nicely formatted. In your case, it might ask you select the default, tool to format it. So just select prettier from that. Because prettier is already configured for me to be the formatter. So it did not ask me what to you. It may ask that, which is a default tool that you would like to format HTML. Just select prettier and you will see the same result. Now, if while writing code, I make things dirty, I make things not so pretty. So all I need to do is hit Command Shift P, format document, and I'll have a nicely formatted document. It's looking so much more beautiful, isn't it? One more extra thing, because this is kind of, we are just beginning our journey. I want to teach you one more thing that will save you a lot of time, right? Today, along with HTML tags, we are learning a lot of things that is going to save a lot of our time, right? So one of the last things I want to show you today for saving your time is, so what you should do, friends, go to Code, Preferences, and Settings. Okay, you can go to Settings using palette as well, and then search for a setting called Format on Save. So I went to the settings and then I'm searching for a setting called Format on Save, right? And here I can tick on. So here it's saying that format a file when I save this. Okay, and now I'll close this. And now whenever I make any changes during my journey, so I've made it dirty now, and as soon as I save it, I pressed Command S and you see that everything is very nicely formatted. Do you think this small little trick will save you a lot of time? Nice, right? So we have learned about paragraphs, we have learned about headings and the importance of headings. Now, line breaks. What if we want to force a line to break? So suppose we have, I'll just make it a bit smaller, and I'll make the text a bit larger using Control Plus. Right? Now what if I want this line to break after ipsum dollar? How do I do that? For that I have a break tag, BR tag. Again, this is we don't need to close this tag, right? So this does not have any content inside of that. It's a simple break tag. And see here what happens when I hit save. So when I hit save, now the page automatically reloaded for me and I can see the effect of the line break tag. So very simple tag, the line break using BR tag. Horizontal ruler, HR tag. Again, it does not need any closing tag, friends, because it does not contain any content inside of it. It's just a tag which gives you a nice line. So when you want a nice horizontal line after undo, for example, so what you can do is type HR for horizontal rule, press enter, hit save. Do you see a horizontal line here or horizontal rule here? This is HR tag. Then the mark tag, what it does is it represents the text, the piece of content that has to be marked or highlighted. It's like marking, it's like highlighting. Okay, so suppose I want to highlight this text called dollar, maybe. So how do I do that? I'll select the text, I'll wrap with abbreviation, and I'll wrap it with the mark tag and save it. Do you see what happened to dollar here? Browser by default highlighted it with a yellow text, with a yellow highlight like thing. Let's do the same thing with elite as well. So I'll just select elite, wrap with abbreviation, I'll wrap it with mark, save it, and you can see that elite is also marked now. Okay. I have to hit enter as well, right? Enter and then save. Elite, wrap with abbreviation, mark, enter, and then save. So I have both of these highlighted now. Very simple, straightforward, right? Once we know the concept, things get easier and easier. The sixth number element that we are learning today is called the cite element. So cite is used, so suppose you have a paragraph or any HTML element. Inside that, you are referencing one of the creative work. Now, what can be creative work? Like a book, a painting, a movie. So if you're discussing about a movie, The Matrix, right? In the entire paragraph. So cite is used to indicate the title of the creative work that you are talking about in that particular section. Okay, it's not used for author name. This is a mistake that people do. So suppose I'm talking about one of my favorite books by an author, Darren Hardy, called The Compound Effect. Okay, so I would not cite Darren Hardy. He's the author. I would cite the title of the book. If I'm talking about a painting called Mona Lisa in a paragraph, I'll surround Mona Lisa with the cite tag. Okay, let's see it. Let's see it in action. So, for example, this lorem is something that we are talking about in this entire paragraph. Okay, so I'll surround lorem with the cite tag. Okay, so let me emit with the cite tag. Okay, and now if I hit save, friends, you will see that although browser made it italic, right? But again, I'll repeat a couple of things. I don't want to move ahead of time, but I want to repeat that, emphasize that all of this styling ultimately we will be doing using CSS. This is just a default style that browser did for us. But it's not just about styling. This is very important, friends, for you to know. The importance of these HTML tags is not for the styling. Keval browser did it italicized. That's why we are not using these tags. It has a lot of, importance in terms of accessibility. And friends, if you want to get reasonably good at HTML, if you want to be able to answer most of the questions that is asked in HTML interviews, you should be reasonably good with accessibility. Again, I promise you we'll be going into great depths of accessibility, but for now, it's important for you to know what is accessibility in general. Don't worry about going into depths of it for now. Just understand that, friends, when we construct a building, right, we have to consider, so for example, if you go to a park that is, that has a staircase, right? So someone who can climb the staircase, they can get into the park, right? But someone who is, not capable of walking or climbing for some reason, then how do we make our park accessible to them, to those friends, right? Someone who is using a wheelchair, how do we make it accessible? So you will see that in many malls and airports, we have ramps which can be used for wheelchairs, right? So we are trying to make our railway stations accessible for everyone by not just using staircases, but also using those ramps. Are you getting what I'm saying? Similarly, friends, looking at a browser and reading it is one of the ways of consuming content that you see in the browser. There are many people, many of our friends who have some disabilities related to, different kind of disabilities. Maybe, they cannot see. And they use things like screen reader to navigate your web page. We will go into depths of them, right? It's a very important topic. In many countries, in fact, for certain websites, it's illegal if you don't take care of accessibility. That's why all the major projects that you will be working on, you have to take care of accessibility. It's our moral responsibility. It's our legal responsibility. But for now, just understand that what you type in HTML, one way of consuming that is reading that, looking that, another way of consuming that is using screen readers. So someone who is not able to see the web page, they use assistive technologies like screen reader to go through the page. Do you see what I'm saying? Few people cannot use mouse because of some disabilities in the wrist. They just can't use mouse. So they need to navigate through keyboard, right? So there should be a way to move from one heading to another heading. That happens by use of proper heading tags. So what will happen is, again, I'm giving you a very small idea. There is a command that will navigate them through all the heading level 2s. And if they are interested in going in deep of certain heading level 2, they can hit a button and they will go to heading level 3 of that particular section. Similarly for site, right? So there are ways in which, we are discussing lots of books in our web page. So they can go and move from site to site, title to title, and then decide which title they want to read. Very important concept. I have tried to explain it to you in very simple and short term. People who don't understand accessibility, now you know what accessibility is. Now you know that this page is not just viewed. Viewing is one of the ways of consuming it. A lot of our audience would be consuming it using screen readers. A lot of them will be consuming it using keyboards, right? So these HTML tags are very important for those assistive technologies like screen readers, and all of them comes under assistive technologies. Other than viewing it, whatever ways of consuming a web page is, they are assistive technologies. And now it will make much more sense to you. Now people teach site without telling anything about accessibility, and students keep wondering that if I can make things italicized using emphasize tag, why do I need a site? No one teaches that, unfortunately, right? But now you know. By using this site tag, by giving this tag to our content, we are telling assistive technologies that in this particular paragraph, we are talking about this particular thing. This is the title of the creative work that we are discussing in this particular paragraph. I hope it's making sense to you, friends. Now, you will have access to my notes. Feel free to revisit it and revise this entire thing. Whatever we have discussed until now in 40 minutes, that can be revised in just 4 minutes using my notes, right? That's why it's very important. Watching videos again and again is not the best use of time. Second, I've also included MDN documentation here. So most of the quizzes and interviewers allow you to use MDN documentation while in your interviews. So it's very important that you are comfortable with MDN documentations. So here they have given a very nice example of using site, and I have also given a great depth of detail which you can refer later. Next is DFN, or the definition term. So in the MDN documentation, you have a search bar above. So here, if I type DFN, and if I select the definition tag, you will be able to read the definition of the definition element. The definition element is used to indicate the term being defined, right? So for example, I have a paragraph where I am defining a computer. So what am I defining in this entire paragraph? A computer. So I wrap computer with the DFN tag, and it tells to the associative technologies that in this particular paragraph I am defining a computer. So when we were discussing about site, site tag, site element was used to define the title of the creative work, the painting, the book, whatever, right? The title of the thing that was in question. Here, it defines the thing or the term that we are defining in this entire context, in this entire paragraph. If you see this paragraph, friends, what are we trying to define in this paragraph? It can be a very big paragraph. I am keeping example simple for a very simple reason. We are defining a dragon here. So what should we wrap with the DFN tag? Where should we be using the DFN tag? Obviously, to wrap dragon. So we are defining dragon here. Okay. Now for our friends using assistive technologies, if I want to give a little bit more information about dragon, how would I do that using the DFN tag? Here comes the picture of attributes. So we have an tag called DFN here, right? What I can do here is, friends, I can give it some additional information. For example, I can give a little bit more, information about this particular definition, using the title tag. And I can write here, it's a mythical creature, often large, fire breathing. Maybe, there is a background image here. For the people who are viewing this, maybe there is a background image of a dragon here. So we don't need any extra definition. Just by looking at it, we are able to figure out the background image that we are talking about a dragon here, right? But what about the friends who are using screen readers? Screen readers cannot, see. There is no way to see the images there, right? So how do we give a little bit more? If suppose some of our friends, they want to know a little bit more information about dragon. How do we help them in our website? It is using the title attributes. Again, there are lots of attributes that we will be studying. Title is one of the attributes. In the MDN documentation, we can see HTML attributes contain extra information about the element that we don't want to appear in the actual content. I don't want the attributes to appear in the actual content, but to the browser, to the assistive technologies, we are telling that here is an extra bit of information for you. Even, it's used by browser for visual purposes as well. So if you see in this example, we have a P tag, right? We have some content, closing P tag. But in the opening P tag, we have an attribute called class. So this is the key of the attribute and this is the value of the attribute. So in the key value pair, we can give some extra bit of information to all of our HTML tags, right? And we'll be going into depth of them, so don't worry about them. Okay? So yeah, this is a very nice use case here. So we are defining dragon in this section, in this context, right? And if we want to give some extra bit of information about dragon to our friends who are using associative technologies, we can use the title attribute and give it a little bit more information. One thing you can just try it out for your practices. Take this example of computer and try to give it a title. Try to give it a bit of extra information to this DFN, the definition tag. Okay, so again quickly, cite is indicating the title of the creative work, and definition is representing definition instance of the term. So when you are in an HTML interview or dealing with text, one thing that you will definitely come across is directionality of the text. For example, Arabic or Urdu is read from right to left, right? And English and Hindi, they are read from left to right. So their directionality has changed, right? If you pick up a book in Arabic, from where would you start reading? From left to right? No. You will maybe start from the opposite direction. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe you will start from here and then move all the way there. And if you are reading Hindi or English, it will go in the other left to right direction. So these are two directions of text. So it's very important for us engineers, aspiring engineers, to know. So there are two, ways of reading text. When you are reading English book, you'll be reading L to R, which means left to right. And if you open an Arabic book, you will be reading from right to left. And in the world of web development, you often have to deal with left to right and right to left language text content. So our website should be able to understand and adapt to the reading direction of the content, right? And one of the ways of informing our browser, communicating with our browser about the directionality of a text is the dir attribute. Let's just play around with it before moving ahead. So I have this paragraph element, and I have this content hello world inside of it. So opening p tag, closing p tag, content, this entire thing is my element. So in this element, the content is hello world, and by default we can see that browser is rendering it left to right. I'll just expand it a bit for you. Okay, so you can see that this hello world is being rendered left to right. How can I tell my browser, although I don't need to do that, but just for the sake of learning, how can I tell my browser that this hello world needs to be rendered from right to left, and my sentence should start from here, the right corner, and move towards the left? And that is by using the dir attribute, and we can select right to left in the dir attribute. And as soon as I save it, do you see this? Now it is rendered as, so we are forcing our browser to render this bit of content as a right to left content. Very important, right friends? So suppose we had some Arabic or Urdu content here, right, which should be displayed right to left, right? So that should be displayed like this, right? It should not start from here as if it's a left to right language, right? It should be displayed in the way the language demands, right? So one of the ways is using the dir. Again, friends, this is something we'll go into more depth, the languages, the directionality, but for now you need to know this much, okay, about the text. Now consider this example, my friends. So here, inside of a paragraph, we have both. We have English text and we have Arabic text. And you will see that this has totally confused our browser. Right? So it should either be, name should be towards the left of the column, So now the question is, how do I isolate this bit of text, right? Which is maybe coming from a database. Maybe we have a blogging system, maybe it's a social media site. And which user is logging in, their name might be in right to left or left to right, right? So how do we isolate this content, which can be any directional? So this concept is called bidirectional isolation. We need to isolate these tags. And how do we do that? Using the BDI tag. So what BDI does is it isolates that bit of text from any direction they might be. It is not just, confused browser, but in fact, Visual Studio Code is also getting confused, right? Because we are mixing two different directionalities together. So how do we fix that? So this dynamic content, we will wrap it with BDI, bidirectional isolation tag. Same thing we'll do here. I hope that Visual Studio will be also more comfortable. See, I'm trying to select it, but not even able to select it because it's moving me in the other direction. Yeah. So now if I wrap it with a bi-directional isolation, now see, even my Visual Studio Code is much more happy and comfortable now. And now if I save it, now it's showing the right way, that this particular user, this bit of content is left to right, but it's right to left, but it's isolated from the entire surrounding. It makes much more sense in my website now, right? This user has 10 posts. This user has 10 posts. But if I get rid of the BDI tag, what would happen? If I get rid of it, see what happens? Both Visual Studio Code also gets confused and our browser also gets confused, right? So again, you know the use case now, right? So if we have both left to right and right to left content within a section, we can isolate certain content's direction using BDI tag, which is bidirectional override tag, bidirectional isolation tag. This is so important, friends. I wish I got all of these information when I was preparing for my HTML. Just listening to it once, will give you an idea forever, the utility of these things. So using BDI, bidirectional isolation, we isolated that bit of content, and by using BDO, we can override the direction using the dir attribute. So if I want to force this particular bit of content to be right to L, R to L, so I can use BDO, bidirection override, and override it with the dir attribute and giving any direction that I want to override it with. Very similar, we are isolating and overriding the direction. Again, sample. So for example, you are writing a technical blog post, right? And you want to say that when you run this command, you will be see this particular piece of text, right? So this is the use case for the sample output tag, which is SAMP tag, SAMP tag. So friends, if I use it here and save it, so you see that, by default, the browser is trying to make it look like a terminal output, right? And we can style it in any way using CSS. But what about our friends who are using assistive technologies? How do they know that this is the sample output? Just by using the screen reader, right? These semantic HTML tags like SAMP really works like magic. SAMP means sample output of a program, and this is most used in technical blogs. Next is keyboard. Again, it makes total sense, right? Suppose again we have a technical blog. Now again in one of the technical blogs, right, you want to express that press Ctrl C to copy. So these are just bit of, if I suppose I just copy this, I just want all of you to understand the use case. Why are these things so important? So now if I remove this keyboard KBD tags, how does browser know what's going on? Maybe it's a maths expression, right? Maybe we are trying to add two things. Maybe, how do we communicate to the browser and the assistive technologies that these are keyboard buttons that we want them to press? So we are like very semantically, very visually, very descriptively, we are telling, our browser and the assistive technologies that this Control and C that is written here, they are actually keyboard inputs. Simple, right? So again, the use case is one of the technical blogs. Again, if you are showing a math program or again a code, a technical blog, and there are a couple of variables, right? And you want to highlight the variables. How do you do that? You want to not just highlight, you want to communicate to the browser and to the assistive technologies that these are variables. And there are a lot of use cases of it. We will see when we go into the accessibility section of our course. It's a big section in itself, a complete playlist in itself, right? So again, it is a lot of utility if you communicate to the browser and assistive technologies that these are the variables in this particular section. It's beautiful, right? Now we learned about, friends, suppose I type any sample lorem text here. If I want to make $strong, I can do that using the strong tag. If I save it, we'll see that the dollar is strong, strongly emphasized. If I want to emphasize maxime tag, I can use em tag. And if I save it, you see that maxime is emphasized, dollar is strongly emphasized. Now, why do I have italic and bold tag here, and why it is not preferred, right? This is an interview question, right? Why you should not be using these two tags? Why you should not be using these two tags? Instead, you should be using strong and you should be using emphasized. Why? Because these look like styling things, right? This gives an impression that we use tags to just style things. This is not communicating anything. Semantically, meaningfully, it's not communicating anything to the browser and the assistive technology. It's purely for style. It's to make things bold. It's to make things italicized. And HTML is not for styling purposes. Styling ke liye we have CSS, right? In HTML, it should communicate things, meaningful things. It should communicate meanings and structure to the browser and assistive technologies. That's why we should use strong and M's for strongly emphasizing and emphasizing something in HTML. These are deprecated, although this would work, but you should not be using italics and B tag, bold tag. But yeah, definitely you can do that. I can change it to B and you will see that it still works. I'll change it to I and save it and you will see that it still works. But if your interviewer asks you, what should you be using? The B tag to make things bold or strong tag? You should be saying the strong tag. Why? Because it communicates more information and meaning to the browser and assistive technologies, right? B and I are for style purposes and HTML is not for styling. HTML is for giving your content a nice structure and meaning. I hope it makes sense. If required, listen to it again, but you should be clear about it. So if you have disclaimers, terms and conditions, copyrights, these kind of things which you want to de-emphasize, you want to tell the browser and the assistive technologies it's not important. Maybe make it smaller, make it dimmer, make it, de-emphasize it. So for that you have a beautiful small tag. So whatever you wrap within the content that you wrap within the small tag, you are communicating to the browser and assistive technologies to de-emphasize the content, and you use small tag for it. Now suppose the old price or offer for one of your product was 50%, but now it's free, right? So how do you communicate this, that something is deleted text, something is newly inserted text? It is very useful in technical blogs as well, right? So we want to represent deleted text or the old outdated text and the new fresh inserted text. How do we communicate that in our code, right? So here is how we do it. Again, if we can use CSS, right, in future to strike it out, we can use, some nice colors to emphasize free, give it a background image or something. But that will be useful only to people who are able to see it. What about assistive technologies? How will they know that this 50 is deleted now, it's not relevant, it's outdated, and free is the current, it's inserted recently? How would an assistive technology know that? Because they won't be able to see the strike through if I do it with CSS. They won't be able to see the underline if I do it with CSS. They can only access HTML. The assistive technologies can only access HTML. What CSS does has no impact on them. So again, we use deleted and inserted tags to communicate to our assistive technologies that this bit of content is outdated and deleted, and this bit of content is newly inserted. Very nice and important tag. Again, here if we go, see this in H2O, this is a sub content, it's slightly lower, right? And if you see MC square, it's a super content. 2 is slightly above the baseline of the rest of the text. How do I do that? How do I do that in HTML? We have subtext and super text for that. Sub moves that below the baseline, and sup or super moves the content above the baseline. So again, if you see, it represents subscript and superscript. Sub and super. I think that's a lot of content for now. See you in the next lesson. I'm sure you'll not be able to find text content using text in HTML in such depth anywhere else, right? So I have put in a lot of efforts, and you can see my hard work. So I'll be very happy if you can give me a nice thumbs up, and if you can give me some nice comments, that will make YouTube Baba very happy. And that is, this content is totally free. I think this bit, if you do for me a nice thumbs up and a nice comment, it will really make me very happy, my friends.